The air around you tightens like an unseen fist, and something deep inside your chest whispers a warning so sharp, it feels like it could cut through bone. You don't know why you feel it, you don't know where it comes from, but it arrives like a thunderclap inside your soul. Run from that person. Run before their shadow reaches a place in your life that was never meant for their footsteps. You try to shake it off, but the whisper becomes a tremor, and the tremor becomes a voice that fills the space around you with an unmistakable heavenly force, one that makes your heart shiver with a fear you cannot explain. You know this is no ordinary fear. Something higher, something divine is telling you the truth you don't want to see. Allah is warning you. Not with a sign you can touch, not with thunder in the sky, but with that uneasy tightening inside your chest, that discomfort that wakes you in the middle of the night, that sudden silence in your heart when that person enters the room. You don't want to believe it. You don't want to accept that someone you trusted, someone you hoped was sincere, someone you thought might be a blessing, could actually be a test. You convince yourself you're overthinking, you tell yourself to calm down, but every time you silence the warning, it grows louder inside the quiet places of your soul. And today, for the first time, you cannot ignore it. You remember the first moment you met that person, the charm, the smile, the softness of their words, the way they made themselves seem safe, harmless, even comforting. They walked into your life gently like a breeze from an open window, but the cold air they carried was the kind that hides storms behind it. You didn't notice it back then because you were tired of betrayal, tired of disappointment, tired of being the strong one all the time. You wanted someone to finally understand you. You wanted someone who made life feel easier for once. And that desire, that longing became the very place where this person planted themselves like a seed. But not every seed grows into a blessing. Some grow into traps. And Allah, in His mercy, warns you before the trap snaps shut. That warning begins subtly, a slight change in their tone, a strange inconsistency in their stories, a laugh that feels fake, forced, or aimed at you rather than with you. A conversation that used to feel effortless suddenly becomes heavy, like they're hiding something behind every sentence. You start noticing things about them that you didn't see before because you weren't meant to see them until now. You hear the way they speak about others when their backs are turned and realize they might be speaking about you the same way. You see the irritation in their eyes when you succeed. You catch the envy hiding behind their compliments. You feel the cold energy in their presence when you talk about your dreams or your faith. These are not coincidences. These are signs. And Allah shows signs in ways the heart can understand long before the mind catches up. Your heart keeps whispering, something isn't right, something is wrong, something is being hidden from you. And every time you try to trust your logic over your intuition, Allah allows another sign to fall in your path, a slip of their tongue, a message you weren't supposed to see, a moment where they reveal their true face, even if just for a second. That 1 second is enough to make your soul freeze. You replay conversations in your mind, the times they made you doubt yourself, the times they laughed at your pain, the times they twisted your words, the times they made you feel small so they could feel big. You remember the way they always needed something from you, but the moment you needed them, they disappeared. You remember how friendly they became whenever they wanted access to your life, your energy, your kindness, your secrets. But the moment you put up a boundary, their face shifted into something unfamiliar. A person doesn't change. Their mask simply slides off, and Allah is showing you that mask now. You don't want to believe it because believing it would mean accepting that someone you cared for was never truly aligned with you. It would mean accepting that you were wrong about them. It would mean facing the loneliness you thought they helped you escape. But Allah's warnings are not to harm you. They are to save you. You sit alone with your thoughts, and you feel the heaviness of realization settling into your chest like a weight you weren't prepared to carry. You think back to all the times you prayed for clarity, for guidance, for protection from harm you could not see. Maybe those prayers are being answered now. Not with a loud voice from the sky, but with a whisper inside your heart that grows stronger every day. And you know Allah is showing you who this person truly is. You know He is protecting you from something your eyes were too gentle to notice. You know that the discomfort you feel around them is not random. It's divine mercy. It starts becoming clearer when you watch their behavior closely. Every time something good happens to you, they become unusually quiet. Every time you share something positive, they respond with doubt. discouragement, or a disguised insult. Every time you talk about your goals, they make you feel like you're dreaming too big. Every time you talk about your problems, they amplify them instead of supporting you. Every time you share your happiness, they somehow make you feel guilty for it. This is not love. This is not friendship. This is not loyalty. This is spiritual corrosion disguised as companionship. You begin to see their presence for what it truly is. A distraction crafted to pull you away from your purpose, your peace, your faith, your growth. A person sent not as a blessing, but as a test. A test you asked Allah to help you pass. And tests don't come in obvious forms. They come in shapes that feel comfortable at first. They come as people who appear harmless, even beneficial, until the truth reveals itself. One night as you sit alone, the realization finally hits you in a way you can no longer ignore. It feels like a wave of cold water crashing down your spine. Your breath catches, your eyes widen, your heart pounds. For a moment you feel anger. Anger at them, anger at yourself, anger at the situation. But beneath the anger, something softer rises, something purer, something humbling. Gratitude, because you finally see what Allah was saving you from. You start remembering the subtle signs He showed you along the way. The strange feeling in your stomach whenever you told that person too much. The uneasiness you felt when they gave advice that sounded caring but led you backwards instead of forward. The sudden emotional exhaustion that always followed your conversations with them. The way your mind would become clouded, confused, or anxious after spending time with them, as though their presence disrupted something inside you. These are not coincidences. These are warnings wrapped in mercy. And now, for the first time, you're listening. You think about how different your life could have been if you had ignored the signs completely. How deeply entangled you could have become with someone who carried a hidden agenda. How much of your peace, your confidence, your time, your dreams, and your faith could have been drained by someone who was never meant to stay. Allah removes people not to hurt you, but to purify your path, even when the removal feels like a wound at first. You feel yourself slowly untangling from the illusions they created. You feel your heart reclaiming the space it once gave to them. You feel your mind becoming clearer, your spirit becoming lighter, your intuition becoming louder, until finally the veil lifts completely. And you see it. That person was never meant to hold the place you gave them. They were never meant to have access to your heart, your trust, or your future. They were simply a storm sent to wash something out of your life, not someone sent to stay in it. You breathe deeply, and for the first time in a long time, the air feels different. It feels clean. It feels clean. It feels safe. Almost as though your soul is exhaling after holding its breath around that person for far too long. You realize now that Allah wasn't just warning you about them. He was guiding you back to yourself. And this is only the beginning. You wake the next morning with a heaviness that sits beneath your ribs, but it is not the same heaviness you felt before. This one isn't confusion. It isn't denial. It isn't fear. It is the weight of truth settling into the places inside you that once clung tightly to illusions. It is the weight of awareness gently replacing the comfort of ignorance. You feel it quietly, steadily, like a sunrise behind the mountains, slow but impossible to stop. For the first time since this entire storm began, your mind is not fighting your heart. The two finally stand on the same side, and that alone brings a strange kind of peace. It is not happiness, not yet, but it is the beginning of something better, something honest, something real. You look at your phone and see their name on the screen, not as a message, but as a thought, a memory. Shadow. Normally the thought of them would pull your emotions in different directions, but today the reaction is different. Your heart doesn't flip, your mind doesn't panic, your soul doesn't shrink. Instead, there is a stillness, a quiet clarity. You finally understand why Allah placed that discomfort in your chest every time they drew closer. You finally see why the warnings grew louder when your trust grew deeper. You finally realize the truth. They were never meant to walk with you into your future. But Allah didn't just warn you about that person. He warned you about the version of yourself that trusted too easily, forgave too quickly, ignored too many signs, and carried too many hearts that were never meant to be your burden. This realization arrives gently, but the impact is sharp. You begin to see all the ways that person shaped you, not through love, but through lessons. You see how their presence exposed your vulnerability, your kindness, your hopes, your fears. You see how they taught you where your boundaries should have been, where your trust should have paused, where your heart should have been more careful. And in that lesson, you find a strange kind of mercy. Because sometimes Allah allows certain people into your life not to stay, but to show you what you must outgrow. But the warning wasn't just about emotional harm. There's a deeper level you had not understood until now. When Allah warns you about a person, it is not always because they intend to harm you physically or emotionally. Sometimes the danger is spiritual. Sometimes the danger is that this person drags your heart away from your purpose, your discipline, your focus, your prayers, your connection to Allah. Sometimes the danger is that they make you think less of yourself. Sometimes the danger is that they make you forget who you are when you're alone with Allah. You think back and realize how many prayers you rushed because of them. How many nights you stayed awake trying to understand their behavior instead of understanding your own soul. How many days you carried worry, fear, and confusion, burdens that replaced the calm you once felt in your relationship with Allah. That was the danger. That was the harm. That was the warning. You remember the conversations where they made you question your worth. You remember the comments they disguised as jokes but left scars beneath your skin. You remember the times they compared you to others, slowly chipping away at your confidence. You remember how they always turned things around on you, making you apologize for what they caused, making you feel guilty for protecting yourself. And now you see it clearly. They were not a blessing. They were a lesson wrapped in false comfort. Allah didn't expose them to punish you. Allah exposed them to protect you. And the more you reflect, the more pieces fall into place. You remember the last time you felt uneasy around them, the strange tightening in your chest that you pushed aside. You remember how they changed whenever someone else entered the picture, how sudden their behavior shifted. You remember the days you felt drained after speaking to them, as though their presence fed off your energy rather than adding to it. You remember how confused you felt, how guilty, how small, how uncertain of yourself. This was not love. This was not sincerity. This was spiritual fatigue disguised as companionship. The truth is that Allah saw what you didn't. Allah heard what you couldn't. Allah knew what they hid. And Allah warned you long before you were ready to accept it, but now you are ready. As the day unfolds, you start noticing signs of healing that feel almost invisible at first, but they grow stronger with each passing hour. You feel lighter. You breathe deeper. You walk differently. You sit with yourself without feeling that familiar ache. The strings that once tied you to that person feel weaker now, thinner and almost transparent. Each thought of them becomes less sharp, less emotional, less heavy. This is what divine protection feels like. Slow, gradual detachment from something your heart was not built to carry. And then, without planning it, you start thinking about the future. Not your future with them, but your own future. The one Allah kept hidden from you until you were ready to walk away from what was blocking. You imagine what your life could look like without their shadow hovering over your thoughts. You imagine your heart at peace again. You imagine friendships built on sincerity. You imagine waking up without confusion. You imagine praying with a clear heart instead of a heart burdened by someone who brought more darkness than light. This vision feels distant, but it feels possible. And possibility is hope. And hope is the beginning of a new chapter. Later in the day, something unexpected happens. Something small, but it shakes you. You hear a conversation, or you see a post, or you receive a message from someone else. And suddenly a piece of truth about that person is revealed. It might be something they lied about, something they hid, something they said behind your back, something that exposes their real intentions. The shock hits you first, then the confirmation, then the clarity. Allah is showing you the truth piece by piece so you never doubt the decision you are being guided toward. You realize that you were protected from a much larger hurt, a hurt that would have devastated you if Allah hadn't pulled you away now. You were spared a heartbreak, a betrayal, a disaster you couldn't see coming, and the gratitude settles deeper. As the sun begins to set, you sit alone for a moment. No distractions, no noise, just you and the quiet hum of truth inside your chest. You finally whisper to yourself what you were afraid to say before. I understand. I accept. I'm ready to let them go. Not because you are weak, not because you are bitter, not because you failed, but because Allah warned you and you listened. This is the turning point. This is the moment your heart shifts from loss to liberation. This is the beginning of the end of the pain and the beginning of your healing. You close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel the first true sense of peace you've felt in a long time. Not because the story ended, but because you finally found the courage to detach from what was never written for you. The night wraps around you gently, and for the first time, your soul feels safe again.